Welcome to another edition of Fellowship of the Swords. I'm Kenneth Deel.
And I'm Farah Deel.
And today we're going to be discussing PK energy and the theory of poltergeist, which is more of a 10-year-old thing now, because over the last 10 years, the transition has occurred where it's becoming more of a spiritual explanation, which is what I argued for a long time, instead of it being science, PK energy being sort of a thing of, like mind over matter. Energy that is kind of mindless and without an intelligence, that you can focus it. Uri Geller and some of these others are trying to claim to be able to focus it, bend spoons, move objects. And what they used to say is they always called poltergeist activity was related to a child's PK energy. They were coming of age, they had all these emotions stirring up, and somehow this energy caused objects to move because of that psychic phenomenon that comes from that energy, that excess. And in this case, it's kind of a negative energy because the emotions cause like anger and frustration. Well, we got a teenager, we know, going through adolescence right now.
No comment.
The poltergeist phenomenon is this, it comes from that old word that's German, poltergeist. You can break it down, and it means noisy ghost. It doesn't mean child with adolescence. It doesn't mean child with PK energy run amok. So having said that, the science side is always going to be biased because they don't want to believe there's an afterlife. They don't want to believe there's intelligence behind hauntings or that possession is actually a spirit. They don't want to believe in demons. So you got to be careful when you subscribe to some of these things, even if it makes you feel all sciencey and makes you feel smart, like Carl Sagan, or something, or Stephen Hawking without the voice synthesizer. But what you got to understand here, and I think it's important, and it's not our opinion, is that I even asked Lorraine Warren and other names over the years in comparing notes. We listen to the veterans as we hope they listen to us. The veterans all agree. PK energy was not the source or phenomenon behind poltergeist activity. And here's an example. The child was watching a TV show, playing a video game probably, and mother in the kitchen was in there talking to a friend. And all of a sudden one of the glasses started rising and levitating off the table. And went over from the table to the kitchen counter. Did not spill the contents. And they looked in there and the child at some point or another, and it's like, what's this all about? And they called for the child, and the child was in there watching the video game mindlessly. Now, how in another room is a child going to even see, when his mind's not directed on that thing? How is this so-called PK energy going to be so perfectly precise directed? That's an intelligence behind that. And that's the phenomenon that we're really referring to here. And you got to watch for it. Look for the signs. Is there haunting already there? Is there an intelligence behind it? Well, I assume that when a child goes through PK, and you can pretty much add to it, Farah, that when a child is going through this adolescence, what is going on with them that might draw negative spirit activity in a party?
I think the point that you're trying to make, Ken, is that what is often witnessed in a lot of PK cases that there is or have been teenagers. Now, what do we mean by teenagers? We mean that the period that humans go through when hormones, and with hormones brings sexual growth. It also increases a lack of desire to honor any sort of authority. So it's a very rebellious spirit that's invited in. It's also a willfulness, a strong willfulness to do things their way and only their way. And the hormones are changing their bodies so fast that it's very difficult for these children to try and focus on what their parents are trying to keep them under right authority.
Oh, yeah.
So what it is you have a myriad of focused and forced negative emotion, such as sexual tensions, willfulness, anger, exclusion, reclusion, and it's almost like kicking a hornet's nest. Or shall we say spilling honey near a honeycomb, and all the bees have to go collect that honey. It's waving, basically, yes, it's waving a match near a pile of brush about to start a fire. And that's what we see as the majority of PK energy is usually centered around these sort of highly emotional, highly charged, hormonal young people. Isn't that what you were talking about, Ken?
Oh, exactly, because that's the key too. Remember we talk about, our radio show, and you're going to interview clients to try to help solve their problem. The husband loses a job and all the stresses around the house, and they said their house was haunted before, it had been cleansed and a priest had done it or something. Now it's starting to come back, and I said it's that stress, that negative energy. I said he might be short-tempered more because he's worried about money. Those negative emotions are, like you said, moth to a flame, for another metaphor.
Oh, yes.
And people got to remember that. And one of the most important things is the child is coming out of their innocence, and they want to push them in to a life of immorality. They might try to push the boys to porn, the girls to listen to the rants of their girlfriends at school, to go ahead and let Tommy have his way with you.
That point alone bears a lot of talk and a lot of discussion. We'll discuss this. Our media's, our hormonal food and our media's push to get children sexually active and sexually attentive by the time they're 4 or 5 years old. I mean, we are sexual beings. Do our children need it shoved down their throats? Unfortunately, with the hormonally fed beef food, chicken that they eat, their bodies are entering puberty much earlier. It used to be when we were growing up, kids hit puberty at like 14, 15. Kids are entering puberty now at 9 and 10 and 11.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
milk
common.
too.
And
Yeah.
that's very scary because you really don't know who's being aggravated when you have a young child in the house. Is it hormonal? What is it? And that it's a very fine line to keep your children safe and get them ready for a world that wants to expose them to every form of sexually perverted, sadomasochistic, anti-establishment, anti-authority behavior. And as a parent, that job is not easy for anyone, especially when two people nowadays have to work just to pull things off.
Yeah, that has an effect. Those situations where the person's oppressed, is there's oppression going on with the adolescent child, getting them to act on emotions and so forth, just like there is for the person who's arguing. Get them to lose their temper further, grab the gun, and then shoot. Or the suicide, who is being oppressed to kill themselves, making them feel like life is just so horrible, and there's 1,000 voices saying, "Oh, you'll never recover from this. You'll never find anybody else."
And what that is that's the emotional beacons for demons. We'll talk about that in another episode too, because that's very, very important. These negative emotions draw minor demons like you would not believe.
And the more you know about the way these spirits work, the more you'll understand this by default, without even asking that big question that we just answered. But trust us on this, and trust the fellow veterans, that we know quite well.
This can be prayed away. It can be, it's a daily assault, and you're going to have to do a lot of praying. And hopefully you can get the teenager in a prayerful mood. You can take him, involve him or her in a regular form of, shall we say, religious studies, religious activities. The more people that you can surround the child with that are of like mind as you, and do not let them have too much free and alone time. That, that really is a Satan's playground. They used to say, idle hands.
Oh yeah, now we got the internet, and worse yet, mobile phones. You can take it anywhere, and then you find out that they're being sexed. Pictures are being sent to them.
The sexting
and that's all
going
too
on
much
with kids.
too. And there's predators out there pretending to be young teenagers
And
just so they can get those
we
things.
see the worst of, and Jacob is my second son, Blake my first. What we're seeing a lot of is girls sending boys naked pictures. It's not usually the boys. The boys are just like, I really didn't want to see this.
Yeah, things have really changed.
And
the aggression.
Unfortunately, that sort of aggression pushes boys over. It's very detrimental. So definitely know who your children's friends are.
And
this PK energy is not something to mess with, because it can get very bad and very oppressive very quick.
from these case studies too, and this applies exactly, is they said it just suddenly stopped. Well, if you look deeper, you'll find the child gave into it, or they don't go forever. And if the child keeps saying, "Get behind me, Satan," more or less in their own way,
Yes.
eventually they give up and they stop. That's why it suddenly stops.
Yes.
Because you give into it, or eventually over time when you keep rejecting it, it stops. So they'd say, okay, if you're going through some sort of spurt with PK energy, why would it suddenly cease? all the things that can happen, like ringing a phone. There's an intelligence behind it. There's
Yes.
always an intelligence behind it. How can PK Energy come up with 40 volts to ring a phone? They used to use a 40 volt pulse, pulsating
Yes.
40 volts. How do they emulate that from the phone company?
Yes.
That's not something you can do with energy. Create a giant magnetic field like they did in that movie Legend of Hell House.
Yes.
You could not recreate that
No.
with a mind to make a phone ring. It is a spirit, and there's an intelligence behind it. And if you get to know how warlocks and witches and all that work, all they're doing is directing spirits. They're not doing any magic themselves. And in the same way, these spirits are just being like juvenile delinquents. Like if you invite party and they get drunk and they start doing stuff like sitting on top of your TV, playing with the remote, and putting a cat in a microwave or anything like that's what these things are like. They're delinquents, and sometimes you see like invisible delinquency going on in a house on a small scale.
There's, this is kind of a funny offshoot of PK energy. A study found in Africa that there was a herd of elephants with a lot of young juvenile males. They were attacking a village, attacking humans. They were just running rampant, destroying. Instead of enjoying their habitat and eating and intermingling with the tribes, they were very destructive and ugly. Well, numerous studies showed that when they brought 2 bull male elephants, these were juveniles, these were teenage elephants. When they brought 2 bull elephants that corralled them and didn't let them bully and beat them back into submission and taught them how to act like male elephants.
Isn't that interesting? That's
They-
elephants.
That's elephants. Humans are the same. You cannot let your teenage daughter or teenage son run the household. That PK energy will take over and destroy your home, destroy your marriage, and destroy relationships. And as the authority of the head of the household, you have every right to take legal right and tell anything negative to leave.
Yeah, psychokinetic energy is what PK stands for, but it is really coming from the spirits intertwined with your emotions that you're drawn to, your negative emotions. Because positive emotions create positive things. Remember Norman Vincent Peale?
Yes.
The power of positive thinking. What you're doing is you're not thinking negative, so you don't draw demons to your side that actually cause hardships and misfortunes.
And Dr.
don't-
Wayne Dyer, too.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Very positive thinker, positive, approachable man, believed in God.
Yeah, great topic, and appreciate you watching the videos. And
And
anytime
don't
of the day.
forget, Satan's already been crushed. He's already gone. But we're here to help you fight the good fight if you need it. So please visit our website, and you'll find a lot more educational materials there. You'll also find anything from tenors, prayer rosary, prayer beads, blessed medals. We pass those out for free. Don't sell those.
Yeah.
And a variety of other things. Our books that we write. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us on Facebook at Kenneth Farah Deel, D-E-E-L, like we're the real deals. And our website again, Ken?
www.swordsofstmichael.org, CatholicDemonologist.com. That's the educational resources one. We can also have contact information, emails, and number for haunting help.
Yes. And that number is 573-990-1333. We're available to help you get where you need to go, back on the right path.
Have a good evening or a good day, whichever it be.
Good night.
God bless.